G'day guys, Big Red here and thanks for joining me. Today I'm actually going to talk about Murray Cod and Murray Cod lures. I love Murray Cod fishing, no doubt about it, my favourite type of fishing. The country you go to, the fish you catch, the country towns you go to, the people you meet, just so genuine and honest, and I absolutely love it. And the other big thing with Murray Cod fishing is just when they strike. Half the time it's right at your feet. It's such a surprise and it's just awesome fun. So what I thought I'd do is just put together a little video about what lures have worked for me and for us, my fishing place. Again, if you watch the show, you'll realise how much we love chasing our Murray Cod. So, if you're a beginner fisho and you've just punched in, what's the best lures to use for Murray Cod, again, there's a million different types of lures and everyone will give you a different perspective on what lures has worked for them in different situations, etc. So yeah, I just thought, if you're trying to put together a bit of a starter pack tackle box, what would you put in it? And again, look, I'm not the best Murray Cod fisherman in the world, let me tell you now. There's a zillion guys that are better than me, but again, this is my personal experience on what's worked. So again, you're a young fisher, you think, I want to start out chasing Murray Cod, what do I put in my little tackle box? So let's start. I would say the lure I've caught the most Murray Cod on is a spinnerbait. And if you talk to Murray Cod fishers everywhere, this would probably have to be one of the oldest styles of lures around, probably developed from the old spoon. And spinnerbaits are absolutely fantastic and they're such an easy lure to use. You just throw them and sometimes you let them sink and then wind them in. And again, they're good because they're fairly snagless. This is a gangster spinnerbait and you'll see on this one he's got a Z-Man frog on there, which is that swim really well. And but even without that, they are quite weedless, and that's the good thing about them. You can usually throw them around snags and timber or whatever, and you've got a pretty good chance of them just swimming right through. What I love about spinnerbaits, and on our latest trip, we were in some gorge country, very rocky country. What I love about these lures, about spinnerbaits, is as soon as you throw them and they hit the water, they start working. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you throw this smack up against a rock ledge, as soon as that hits the rock ledge and starts falling, these blades are spinning and flashing in the water. And if you ever, throw one of these, even in semi-murky water, you'll see how well these blades flash. So as soon as this lure hits the water, it starts working, and that's what I love about them. Again, sometimes you want to let them sink down along a bank. Sometimes if it's shallower, you'll start cranking them straight away. But again, yeah, the lure I've caught the most cod on is a spinnerbait. Easy to use, they're not too dear. Again, we use these ones from Gangster because they're just so tough and they're made really well. Again, there's a lot of brands, but we just love using the Gangster spinnerbait. So number one is these spinnerbaits. The other soft plastic type I've caught them on is called a chatterbait. And I call that because this little blade here, basically, it swims through the water like that, and pretty much the same retrieve as a spinnerbait. Throw them in, let them drop, and then bring them through. Again, on our last trip, I had a cod, strike this about 3 times and eventually got him. And again, it's just a different style bait to a spinnerbait. I mean, this doesn't sort of roll and flash like this does. It's just dropping down through the water column. But still, just a really thump. And I think too, if the water's a bit dirty and you really need some solid thump, these things are great. And again, back to the spinnerbaits. You can get, this is a fairly large one. I mean, you can get bigger ones than this for bigger impounds and stuff, but for the creeks and rivers where we're fishing, this was awesome. And the other soft plastic style bait I used was a Z-Man 6-inch minnows on this is a weedless type hook with a jig spin. So basically you attach your line there, and again that just comes through the water column. This beetle spins moving around and this tail really wiggles as well, and that's quite weedless too, which is really good. And I've caught a few on this, and I guess when there's a bit of a risky cast, there's a fair bit of timber, or you don't know what's there, this is a great lure to drag through, because often if there is timber, it'll bounce over it and you can think, oh yeah, okay, there's a bit of timber in there. before you toss in your best hard body. So that's pretty much the basic three style, spinnerbait, your chatterbait, and also again your soft plastic. So just these are such a great staple to have in your kit. Just brilliant lures. The next thing I'll quickly talk about, because again, swim baits, the big swim baits are usually designed for impoundments, and I guess the bigger creeks, but I've had at least, a solid couple of hits on these it's a little Savage Gear swim bait that I've got on special, believe it or not, and they actually swim really well through the water. Last trip I had a couple of hits on that. I've done the Guida up the top of Copeton, had a couple of hits on this one as well. So yeah, a bit of an unexpected lure. I mean, they're just a really good size. And again, for the guys that fish the big impoundments, they're using the big gantrels and gigantals, but I haven't done much of that yet. I hope to, so I'll keep my opinion to myself about that. I guess the next style is hard bodies. So I'll go from my first ever Murray Cod was caught on a little stump jumper. And these are, again, like the spinnerbaits, a classic lure for Murray Cod. They're called a stump jumper because as you wind them through with this bib, basically it does jump stumps. And I know a lot of the guys troll big ones of these for Murray Cod in the rivers, etc. And yeah, like as they're going through, as they tow, they will basically bump over snags. You'll certainly feel the snags, but they'll bump over snags as well, which makes them pretty good for snaggy territory. Again, they come in this size, there's a smaller size, and there's, I think, two bigger sizes. Again, a classic lure for Murray Cod, and I was so pumped when I first caught my first Murray Cod. That's why it's up on the lure board there. The second lure, this was actually made by a local lure maker around here, unfortunately passed away not long ago, Lula Lures, and yeah, my biggest cod, an 83, was on this one. I guess what I like about Murray Cod lures for hard bodies, and I'll move into the next one as well, and we call this the Magic Lure, and it's made by Illusion Lures by Wal Moffat. He's such a great guy. This lure was originally meant for jewfish, but Keza found it years and years ago down in Ballina, and we call it the Magic Lure for a reason, because it just seems to catch Murray Cod wherever we go. If nothing's else working, we tie this on and we get them, so go figure. What I love about both these lures is they have such a wide body roll, and I guess the dewy lures in the surf, you want that big roll, and this one's got that perfectly, and it's quite shallow, especially a lot of the creeks and rivers. If there's a bit of weed and it's sitting about a metre above, metre below the surface, and this is what happened to us at Men's Falls Retreat, is there was weed just below the surface, and this thing wasn't that deep, and it was just above that, the weed and the cod were just coming out, boom, boom. And also on a recent trip, I went down to Ashford again. This just dominated, seriously. It was just toss it in, getting hit every time. So such a great lure. Again, like I'm saying, impoundments might be too shallow, but for where we've done most of our fishing in creeks and rivers, it's been perfect. So that's the Illusion Lure. The other one I'll mention, and I just used this before last time, is this Kingfisher River Rat. And again, for those creeks and little rivers, this was absolutely perfect. Again, it's not a really deep diver, but I found it, especially around the rocks and that, it would just really shoot and dart around the rocks. And if it was a bit shallow, it was so good, because it was like, it would look like something scurrying through the rocks. And again, had some great hits on this, some great fish. So Kingfisher River Rat, good lure as well. And of course, I can't go without mentioning the My Fishing Place Bluey. I've caught them on this as well, and yeah, I've talked to a couple of good old fishers out at Inverell there, and they go, mate, that'd be great for Murray Cod, and we've got them on this as well. The last category I'll go through is surface lures, and simply, my two favourites and the ones that I've actually caught fish on, number one are the Jackal Pompadour, and this is it's just such a versatile lure, from cod to bass to whatever else you want to throw it at. It's just got a classic, action across the water. And again, it's a straight retrieve. Sometimes I do a few stops and starts and things like that as well. for Murray cod, just to make it look like it's scurrying, then it stops scurrying. And I've caught a couple on this, and I know Kez has caught a couple on the mega pompadour, which is a bigger one again. And you know, the noise that thing makes as it walks across the water is absolutely incredible. So that was a good lure as well. And last but certainly not least is this little, again, a little kingfisher lure. And this is one of, you can see I've busted there, the edge thrown it at rocks. And this was the first surface lure I got for Murray cod, and it performed very, very well. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's got a really good little rattle inside. And yeah, when this is walking across the water, it makes such a distinctive sound. It is really, really cool. So, and if you know, surface fishing for Murray cod is so much fun. It's absolutely awesome. You know, like any fish, the explosion. I know, because Murray cod, they've got that massive tail and just whack, splash the water. It's a heap of fun. So I guess, yeah, so they are the lures. Like I say, this is zillion lures. People have caught them on all different types of lures, but they are the lures, if you were starting out a tackle box, that I would get. So I'll go through them again. Number one is spinnerbaits. You know, that's a pretty good size by Gangster Spinnerbait. So get one of those. Chatterbaits are great as well. That's the next category, I think, for a bit deeper water and maybe it's a bit murkier. Again, the soft plastics, Z-Man soft plastics with a little beetle spin and that weedless jig head, great for scoping out new territory. A couple of little swim baits. Again, you can get some bigger ones for the impoundments and dams. With your hard bodies, yeah, take a couple, sometimes a couple of little smaller ones work. But again, you know, you can either have, again, these are the shallower running ones that we've used in creeks and smaller rivers. Of course, the My Fishing Place lure. And, you know, a couple of surface lures as well, like the pompadour or it's a kingfisher, I forget what it's called actually, but it's a, you know, a little surface kingfisher lure. You'll find it on their website. So again, that's what I've used. You know, if you do more fishing, again, you know, I don't have any on my wall, but yeah, you know, the hard bodies, you get into these massive 120 mil hard bodies that plough the bottom of the dam, and you get your big gigantrals for your impoundments as well. But you know, for creeks and rivers, I think that's a pretty good mix of lures. So guys, I hope that helps, and yep, enjoy the fishing. Tight lines, take care.